I never thought my family's perfect picture would crack because of a single Facebook message. But that's exactly what happened. One evening, while I was scrolling absent-mindedly through my notifications, a stranger's name popped up. No profile picture that made sense, broken English in the first few lines, classic scammer vibes. I almost ignored it, almost laughed it off. But then, she dropped a bomb. She claimed to be my dad's girlfriend. You know that moment when your stomach just drops like you've missed a step on the stairs? That was me, staring at my phone, reading her words over and over. My dad? The man who'd been married to my mom for decades, the one I'd just started to rebuild a close bond with after years of teenage distance? No way. It had to be a scam. Except she didn't stop there. She had details, personal details, and before I could catch my breath, she sent pictures. Not blurry, stalker-type pictures either. No, these were crystal clear. Her and my dad, arms around each other, her lips pressed against his cheek, him smiling like it was the most natural thing in the world. I froze. My first instinct was denial. Maybe Photoshop, maybe an old coworker being too affectionate, maybe. Anything but the obvious truth. But deep down, I felt that cold sting of reality creeping in. And before I knew it, I was typing back, pretending I already knew about her. Pretending my father had several girlfriends just to test if she was real. That was the moment everything spun out of control. To really understand why that message shook me to the core, you've got to know a little bit about my family. On the outside, and honestly, for most of my life on the inside too, we were what people would call solid. The kind of family you'd see in a Hallmark commercial. My parents laughed together in the kitchen, whispered jokes at family gatherings, and parented us like a team. Growing up, I never once questioned their bond. Sure, my dad and I had our clashes during my teenage years. I mean, what kid doesn't butt heads with their father at 16? But once I left for college, something shifted. He wasn't just dad anymore. He was someone I actually enjoyed talking to. We'd grab coffee when I was home for breaks, trade book recommendations, even talk about career stuff. I felt proud of him. And honestly, I was proud of us too, for working through the rough patches. And my mom, she was the emotional anchor of our home. If dad was the one teaching discipline, structure, and ambition, mom was the one teaching kindness, patience, and empathy. Together, they balanced each other out in this rhythm I admired deeply. If anyone ever asked me what a strong marriage looked like, I'd point straight to them, no hesitation. That's what made that stranger's message feel like someone had just taken a sledgehammer to the foundation of my entire childhood. It wasn't just about cheating or even betrayal. It was about realizing that the people I'd built my definition of love and loyalty around might not have been as unshakable as I believed. And the irony? The timing. Because while I was wrestling with whether this woman was real or some elaborate scammer, my dad himself started blowing up my phone with casual texts. "How are you? How's everything going?" All out of the blue. That was the moment when suspicion turned into dread. It was almost like he knew. At first, I honestly thought I was being played. A scammer fishing for money, blackmail, something along those lines. That's why I decided to flip the script and play along. When she asked if I knew about her relationship with my dad, I casually responded, "Of course, I just wasn't sure which one you were." It was a gamble, but my thinking was simple. If she was a scammer, I'd take away her leverage by making it seem like my father was a serial cheater. If she was real, well, then I'd just thrown a wrench into his affair. Her reaction told me everything I needed to know. She panicked. Suddenly, this stranger was demanding to know who the other woman was, firing frantic questions, her messages flooding my screen like a dam had burst. I invented details on the spot, names, countries, timelines. My fingers moved faster than my brain, weaving this fiction about how dad had girlfriends scattered across different cities, how he'd been living this double life for years. And she believed me. Hook, line, and sinker. That's when the guilt started mixing with adrenaline. She wasn't playing coy or calculating. She was hurt. She was sobbing through her messages, typing in broken sentences, her pain pouring through the screen. She told me how she thought my dad truly loved her, how she'd imagined a future with him. I could almost hear her voice cracking in between those frantic words. Then came the twist I hadn't anticipated. She asked for a phone call. Not with me. Well, not just with me. She wanted to set up a three-way call with my dad, without him knowing I was on the line. My heart was racing so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. This was no longer a game. No more what-ifs. I was about to hear, with my own ears, whether my father, the man I admired, trusted, and respected, was exactly who this woman said he was. The night of that call felt like the longest countdown of my life. I sat alone in my room, phone in hand, my palms slick with sweat. The screen glowed in the dark like it was mocking me, daring me to press accept. When the three-way call finally connected, her voice came first, shaky, timid, but determined. "Hi, it's me," she said. Then silence. My stomach twisted into knots as I waited. And then his voice, my father's voice, calm, familiar, almost too casual. "Hey, I didn't expect you to call this late." It was him. No doubt, no mistake, no glitch in reality. My dad. The man who just hours earlier had texted me asking about my day, now speaking gently to a woman who wasn't my mom. I stayed completely still, every muscle in my body tight, trying not to breathe too loudly. I listened as he called her by pet names I had never heard him use before, the kind of sweetness he reserved for my mother, or so I thought, and then the truth spilled out, piece by piece. He wasn't just flirting, wasn't just playing around, he was making promises, telling her he missed her, talking about when they'd see each other again. Each word was like a hammer blow to the chest. The woman, my accidental partner in this cruel discovery, finally pushed him. She asked if he loved her. There was this pause, long enough that I thought maybe he'd backtrack, maybe he'd laugh it off, maybe I'd wake up from this nightmare. But then he said it. 3 words that shattered everything I believed about my family. "I love you." I don't remember breathing after that. I just sat there, frozen, hearing the sound of my father's betrayal ringing in my ears, echoing through every memory I'd ever held of him. And in that single moment, the foundation of my entire world cracked wide open. When the call ended, I just sat there staring at the ceiling, phone still in my hand, feeling like gravity itself had doubled. My chest was heavy, my throat dry, my mind racing in 1,000 directions at once. Part of me wanted to storm into the living room, scream at him, demand answers. Another part of me wanted to crawl under the covers and pretend I had never picked up that call. Instead, I did nothing. I went silent. For days, I carried the secret like a stone in my stomach. I'd sit across from him at breakfast, watching him sip his coffee, watching him ask my mom if she wanted more toast, watching him pretend to be the man I thought he was. I kept waiting for some sign, some flicker of guilt in his eyes, some hesitation in his voice. But there was nothing. He wore his mask perfectly. The worst part? He kept texting me, random messages, harmless questions. "How's work going? Are you eating enough? Proud of you." And each time my phone buzzed, I felt sick, because now every word carried a shadow. The woman, meanwhile, didn't stop messaging me either. She wanted updates. She wanted me to tell her if he was acting differently, if he was pulling away. She was desperate for reassurance that she wasn't just being used. And I, trapped in the middle of this twisted triangle, didn't know what to say anymore. Every interaction became unbearable. Every laugh at the dinner table felt fake. Every memory of childhood suddenly had cracks in it, like old photographs curling at the edges. And then came the hardest question of all, the one that kept me awake at night. Do I tell my mom? Because keeping silent felt like betrayal, but speaking up would set fire to everything. Secrets like that don't stay buried. They rot from the inside out, and sooner or later the stench seeps through. It happened one night at dinner. We were all sitting around the table. My mom, my dad, me, just like any other evening. The TV was playing softly in the background, the smell of roasted chicken filling the room. Ordinary, comfortable, familiar. And then my phone buzzed. It was her, the other woman. She had lost patience with my silence. The message popped up on the screen in big, bold letters. "Does your dad still love me, or is he lying to both of us?" I froze. My fork slipped from my hand, clattering against the plate. Both my parents looked at me. My mom raised an eyebrow, concerned. My dad just watched. I felt his eyes drilling into me as if he already knew. That was it. The dam broke. The words came out before I could stop them. "Who is she, Dad?" The room went silent. My mom's smile faltered, confusion spreading across her face. My father's jaw tightened. For a second, he didn't even try to play dumb. He just stared at me like he was daring me to keep going. But I did. I told my mom everything. The messages, the phone call, the "I love you." I spilled it all right there at the dinner table, my voice shaking, my hands trembling. My mom went pale. She didn't cry, not right away. She just sat back in her chair, blinking, her fork still in her hand like she'd forgotten what it was for. My father, he didn't deny it, didn't even try. He just buried his face in his hands and muttered, "I never meant for it to go this far." But that excuse only made it worse, because not meant to go this far meant it was real. It was intentional. It was betrayal. In that moment, our family stopped being whole. After that night, nothing felt the same. The house, once full of warmth and routine, turned into a battlefield of silence. My mom moved through the rooms like a ghost, speaking less, avoiding his eyes, avoiding mine. Sometimes I'd hear her crying behind closed doors, muffling the sound into her pillow. Other times, she'd sit at the kitchen table staring at her wedding ring, like it was a shackle she couldn't decide to break. My father tried to patch things up, flowers, apologies, promises he couldn't possibly keep, but every word out of his mouth sounded hollow. He wasn't my dad anymore. He was a stranger wearing his face. And me? I carried the guilt of being the one who exposed it all. Even though he was the one who broke everything, I was the spark that set the fire. My mom never blamed me, not out loud, but sometimes I caught that flicker in her eyes. The pain of knowing, the pain of being forced to know. The other woman eventually stopped messaging me. Maybe she realized there was nothing left to gain. Maybe she found someone else to fill the void. I didn't care anymore. By then, she was just another ghost haunting the wreckage. Holidays felt different. Birthdays, dinners, even simple mornings. There was always a shadow over us. A family once built on trust, now rebuilt on broken pieces. And the hardest part? I can never unhear those words. I love you. They echo in my head even now, years later. A constant reminder that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones holding the knife. Looking back, I realize betrayal doesn't just destroy relationships. It rewrites them. It takes the people you thought you knew and replaces them with strangers. My father, once my protector, became the source of my deepest wound. My mother, once my picture of strength, became someone I had to protect from a truth she never asked to hear. And me? I grew up too fast that day. I learned that love is not always safe, that trust is fragile, and when it breaks, it cuts sharper than glass. But I also learned something else, something I carry with me even now. Sometimes the truth, no matter how painful, is the only way forward. Because silence protects the liar, but truth sets the innocent free. So if you ever find yourself holding a secret heavy enough to crush you, remember this: what you keep hidden doesn't just rot you from the inside. It rots everyone it touches. And though my family will never be the same, at least the lies are gone. And sometimes that's the only kind of peace we get. And of